Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call of the board members, please.
Gustinelli.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Racine. Absent and excused.
Excused.
Yulee.
Here.
DeGood.
Here.
Fudge.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
All right. Thank you for that. And now we have our opportunity for public comment. Public comment is the guidelines are indicated on the agenda. Feel free to read them. And just, I understand that there are people who are interested in making public comment tonight, and you need to know there are no other opportunities for public comment until the end of the meeting. So if you have anything you'd like to make comment on regarding what's on the agenda, feel free to step up to the podium, state your name and your address, and let us know what you have to say.
Good evening. I'm Jan Freeman. I live at 4284 Eagle Vale in Traverse City. I happen to be the president of the Eagle View Homeowners Association also. So Chairman DeGood, commission members, John and Steve, members of our community, I'm really here tonight to speak this evening regarding the Copper Ridge major amendment request. The board of the Eagle View Homeowners Association would like to respectfully propose to the commission to delay a recommendation regarding the Copper Ridge major amendment PUD request to the township board for their review and approval until an additional public hearing take place in front of the commission. As you know, according to Section 423G, Amendments 1, General A, an amendment is a request for any enlargement, expansion, increase in intensity, relocation, or modification of any condition of a previously approved and currently valid special use permit. In the case of the Copper Ridge PUD amendment, it has been determined by staff to be a major amendment and shall be processed in accordance with Section 423G6 of the major amendments. Section 423 Special Use Amendment G, Amendment 6, Major Amendment states that any proposed amendment other than those provided for in the other two sections, administrative amendments or minor amendments, are considered a major amendment and shall be approved in the same manner and under the same procedures as are applicable to the issuance of the original special use permit approval. The facts this evening indicate that the staff information shared in the handout, Copper Ridge PUD Major Amendment Findings of Fact, dated February 12, 2025, to your commission tonight, indicates that the meeting with township planning staff with the applicant provided a list of uses on February 4th to the planning staff. The planning staff has indicated on page 2 of 7 of the findings of fact in tonight's handout that they have concerns with the list as presented in February 4th, 2025 by the applicants. Those include retail low volume and retail medium volume proposed for Building 10, and dwelling multiple family, including short-term stays, proposed in Buildings 3 and 4 and Building 10. As of this time, there's no indication as to the intent of the Copper Ridge PUD applicants on the acceptance of the staff's recommendations on the list of proposed permitted uses and definitions by staff included in the finding of fact dated today's date. There is no definitive list of uses to be considered for the 4 sites that are requested to be changed by the this major amendment. As thus, there has not been sufficient time to allow for notice to the public as to the potential change in the specifics of the intended use of those 4 building sites in the Copper Ridge PUD. We see this, in fact, as a significant change in the PUD major amendment application requested by Sarah Kiefer on behalf of Copper Ridge LLC, dated December 4th, 2024, with the narrative dated October 7th, 2024, in relation to the included list of uses for these building sites. As indicated in the Garfield Township zoning ordinance, section 426B3A, the Planning Commission shall hold a public hearing on the development of this application. We believe that, in fact, the public hearing on December 11th, 2024, was a preliminary hearing that did not include vital information to the public that is the heart of the major amendment application. In fact, as I just indicated, this vital information is still not available for review as I speak. We strongly believe that the community at large has the right to have knowledge and public input into the allowed intended uses of the 4 sites in Copper Ridge PUD and the definitions that define these sites. That this public input is valuable data for you, the Planning Commission, to have before you make a final recommendation to the Township Board, as indicated in the written process of having public hearings for major amendments. We respectfully request your consideration after commission review and discussion of the agenda item unfinished business PD 22512 Copper Ridge PUD major amendment of consideration and approval of the following motion. Motion that applicant SUP 2000-080 submitted by Sarah Kiefer on behalf of Copper Ridge LLC for an amendment to the Copper Ridge planned unit development be tabled, and the Copper Ridge PUD major amendment be sent for a second public hearing with the revised list of proposed permitted uses and their definitions and uses being provided to the public. We thank you for your consideration tonight.
Go ahead.
Thanks for allowing me to come in and speak tonight. My name is Rick Rizal. I represent the Crown Development. I am here, nothing to do with the Crown. I'm not here for...
Sorry, Rick, your address, please?
Pardon?
Your address. If you could just indicate your address. Where do you live?
My address, personal address,
Sure.
3087 Silver Hills Lane,
Thank you.
Traverse City. Sorry.
No worries.
But what I'm here for, I couldn't make the previous meeting, and it's my understanding that that meeting, this is about the tower. I'm sorry, I didn't even tell you what the subject was. But the tower is not a environmental issue to me. It has nothing to do with what I'm trying to do. It's solely letting you folks know that the ingress and egress to the site that they propose to put the tower is 20 feet off a lot line with some land that I own. And there's also currently four driveways along Zimmerman Road that allow Alpers Excavation to do a pit. It allows a single-family house. They're going to have another one there, and then Gilroy's has got a fifth entrance. Couldn't comprehend how you could ever get 5 entrances in one property, but that's what they're asking for, is to put that entrance to this tower 20 feet off a commercial lot line. So I just wanted to get the opportunity to let you folks know that there's currently 4 entrances at that site, and my opinion, the site should be addressed, and you folks are very got good judgment, and I hope that you'll consider this entrance. That's all I've got. I thank you for it, and do you know when that will be voted on?
It's on our agenda tonight.
It's on
It's on our agenda tonight. To
Tonight?
deliberate.
a
over it.
final vote?
It's on the agenda, and there, we may or may not vote on it.
So you folks would pass that with a condition? Is that what would happen?
You're welcome. I don't want to engage. We've heard your comment. It's on the agenda. We'll be deliberating about it tonight, and as we will find out, you will find out what will happen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else who'd like to make public comment?
Hi, my name is Harriet Hitchcock, and I am a resident of West Crown, and my address is 2594 West Crown Drive. My husband and I recently moved to West Crown Golf Course Development, and our home is located high on the ridge, and we overlook a really nice view of the golf course and the horizon line. And what I'm trying to find more about is the cell tower development. I'm not sure why that location was picked out, but I am concerned about it because as I read the Kinsley or the Kimley Horn document that addresses the landscaping, I am not sure if we're still going to see it because we have a pretty good view of the horizon and Alper's gravel pit. So what I'm concerned about is will it rise above that horizon line? Will we see it? Will there be lights on it? It's not that well explained in that document. And, you know, they do say that there will be a screen of some pine trees, but I don't know how there would be. From my viewpoint, I can kind of see a big, wide opening for the gravel pit. I also am concerned about the property values because what I've read online is that 5G small cells and cell towers can drop your property values, and a lot of people, according to a survey by the National Institute for Science, Law, and Public Policy, found that 94% of its respondents said that cell towers and antennas in a neighborhood would impact how interested they would be in a property and how much they would pay for it. 79% said they would not, under any circumstances, buy or rent a property within a few blocks of a tower. I just think maybe there should be a survey taken, at least by the neighbors in the Crown. It's a pretty big development, and I don't know if everybody knows about it. So that's all I can suggest. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else who'd like to make a comment, please step to the podium. All right, we'll go ahead and end public comment, and we will proceed to our next item of business. Where have I stuck my agenda? There it is. Review and approval of the agenda and statement of conflicts of interest.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Fudge, support by Augustinelli to approve the agenda. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same. Motion passes. Let's now review the minutes from our January 22nd meeting. I understand that staff may have some comments.
We were just reading through it, noticed a few typographical errors.
What do you got?
Mostly on the timestamps. Public comment at 7:02, minutes were at 7:03, the one in between was listed as 7:21. Since there was no public comment, that should probably be 7:02 as well. And similarly on top of page 2, correspondence was at 7:04, report shown at 7:31, and the next timestamp thing is 7:08. So probably 7:05 is when the reports were done. And then at the top of page 5, the items for next agenda 10C, it would be Ollie's Bargain Outlet, as they misspelled.
Outlet instead of outler.
Yes,
Is that all?
that's all we had.
Any of the, go ahead, Molly.
Yeah, I have one on my report in the minutes. We were talking about the water contract with the city and the township, and what it says in here is reviewed and renegotiated. What it needs to say is reviewed and clarified.
Okay.
We're not going to be renegotiating the contract, hopefully, before they approve our projects that we have waiting in line.
Okay.
Any other comments or concerns? All right. Anybody like to make a motion regarding the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes with the noted changes for time and also Molly's clarification. Support.
All right, we have a motion by Klein, support by Robertson. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, same? Motion passes. With that, we will move on to correspondence. And I know we have one piece of correspondence that was on our desk that we've already heard about during public comment. Do you have anything else for us?
That's it right now.
Okay. Well, then, moving on from correspondence, let's go with reports. Molly, what's going on with the Township Board?
A couple of things. We're, still dealing with the water issue. I think a lot of people are aware that the Commons would like to have a loop through there, and so we're kind of dealing with that. Also, an interesting thing was that the Department of Public Works is looking to become an authority. And so there's a lot of discussion about that. It's different, just a different structure than what they're set up with now. So that's it.
Thank you. Let's see, Zoning Board of Appeals.
No meeting.
I can speak regarding Parks and Recreation Commission. We did have a meeting last week and mostly just reviewed the report from last year and talked about upcoming issues. One of those was reviewing the progress plans on that loop. I believe you're speaking of the loop trail in the Commons?
No, we're speaking about looping Garfield Township's water lines into the city to pick up the Commons.
Gotcha, okay. A different kind of loop altogether.
A different kind of loop.
Yours is a water loop, mine's a pedestrian and bike loop. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of loop we were talking about at the Parks Commission. Other than that, nothing really to report. Did the Joint Planning Commission meet?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, and that's right, you're the new representative along with John.
Yeah, and we elected officers. Maybe you know who the officers are. I don't have
I think Mitch Treadwell is going to be
he's the chairman.
chair now. Yes. And Amy DeHaan remains
Amy
as
is gonna
secretary.
be secretary.
Okay.
Organizational.
All right, any reports from staff?
Our reports mostly in packet, just on developments that Plan Commission has been reviewing, and a couple administrative developments as well. I'm continuing some work on the GIS database of the streetlights. There's sort of two steps: getting all their locations and then all the data behind it, who pays for what. Some of them are special assessed, some of them are the township, some are completely private and we have nothing to do with them. We found, actually, just in the last couple of days, got all of the locations on the map. We have apparently 828 streetlights between all of the different public-private ones throughout the township. So, and there's 3 providers, Consumers, TC Light and Power, and Cherryland Electric. So we'll be trying to sift through more of the data, which also leads to, though, we are working on capital improvements program. It's sort of an amalgam of a few different things that the township has done. Our engineer has always done the water and sewer kind of projects, tracking major projects over the years. And Parks has always done their sort of annual list of priorities to sort of encompass this all into a capital improvements program, which we will be involving the Planning Commission at some point. There is, within the Planning Enabling Act, statutory language talking about planning commissions being part of recommending a capital improvements program if the municipality has one. So this may be the first development of one. So we hope to bring that probably to a study session at some point in the next few months. And other than that, that's pretty much what we've been working on.
Great, thank you, Steve. You have anything to add, John?
No, just, I think the CIP will be an important tool for the township board when it's making budget decisions regarding all the infrastructure. We're going to be also, as part of that, doing an asset inventory of all the township equipment and structures and so forth, so that it'll kind of give some good guidance to the board when they're making their budgetary decisions.
I know that the Parks Commission is looking forward to having our annual planning codified in that way, so. We're looking
And it will
forward.
help for multi-year projects, like River East has involved a few different phases, so being able to kind of not only codify, but also kind of envision, like, we know this needs to take a few years, and if there's adjustments to be made to kind of track that a little bit throughout. So this will be a good tool to enable that.
Great, thank you both. Are we ready to move on to unfinished business? We'll start with PD 2025-11, Tower North Wireless Communication Facility SUP follow-up.
All right, so as mentioned in a couple of the public comments, this is the Tower North proposed wireless communication facility at 2767 Zimmerman. This is on part of the Alpers gravel mine site. It's a portion of that parcel. It is near Silver Lake and Zimmerman intersection and near the Crown, as we heard. As follow-up from the public hearing, we heard a few different comments. Some were specifically asking about the environmental effects, and Planning Commission asked us to forward this to the township attorney and get a legal review on what authority, if any, the township may have in that realm. We had found a portion of the U.S. Code that indicated that township did not have any authority. We asked to just clarify that, or if there was any case law that we were unaware of. Township attorney's memo is included in there that indicated that the township cannot use the environmental effects as part of its consideration, provided that they meet the FCC standards. So the feds have jurisdiction over that portion of it. We do have jurisdiction over the things that are in the ordinance, which we discussed in, we had put it just sort of as the last pages of this report. It was just the analysis that we had done on the standards of Section 792, which is our portion of the ordinance on wireless communication facilities. And then the memo is in there too. So last meeting, we were not directed to prepare findings of fact, so this was just the added information that was brought. Applicant is also here as well. So if there's anything else that we need to look at, otherwise we would be looking for direction to prepare findings of fact.
So we have the memo from the attorney at Olson and Howard, and I think the relevant paragraph reads, according to federal law, while local zoning authorities retain general rights to regulate the placement, construction, and modification of wireless service facilities, they may not do so on the basis of the environmental effects of radio frequency emissions to the extent that such facilities comply with the FCC's regulations concerning such emissions. So, as you had previously suspected, we don't have any authority to regulate radio frequencies, which was the one factor that we asked you to look into. And so, I mean, unless there's any further discussion, it strikes me that we're ready to have staff prepare finding of fact. Molly?
Okay, I think that we need to consider what our master plan says for that property. Our master plan contemplates that that's going to be single-family residential. A tower does not fit into single-family residential. And right now, it is ag, but this is a special use permit. So I would like us to think about that a little bit. It's very close to Traverse City. It's not going to remain ag. And so I think we need to look at the future here. That tower's going to be there a long time, and that'll be a detriment to housing in that area.
Are you thinking we should discuss that now, or should we have
We can-
staff look into?
Well, I guess we got to have an opinion from the people that are sitting at the board. If we are going to follow our master plan, and we are going to go to single-family residential, and this is a special use permit, so we have some latitude, can we move in that direction, or is that some other way to go on it?
Well, I think it's important to understand that there's limitations in terms of what we can do in the siting of wireless communication facilities. The federal government has very strong requirements in terms of the siting of these. We can work towards ensuring that they meet certain setback requirements, that we can encourage things like co-location, that type of thing, but we don't, if they meet our requirements in the ordinance, there's not much more that we can do. And they did adjust it based on meeting the setback requirement in terms of the ordinance. It also does provide benefit to the community in terms of improved service. One of the areas that we do, it's not a cellular tower, it's the water tower it's adjacent to Heritage Estates, which is actually a township water tower, not currently used, but that has several antenna on it. And so this has the potential to ultimately maybe replace that, because that tower will at some point most likely be relocated somewhere else within the township's water system. So it's from our understanding in our review of the materials that they provided that this improves the cell service in that area based on problems that they've had. So this does improve the network overall. There are other locations that we have cellular towers in the township, in some areas that are residential. We think it's, it's one of those things. It's we all have cell phones. We all demand good quality service, and part of that is needing the infrastructure in place. So I don't know much more than that we can do in this particular location in terms of it does meet the zoning ordinance requirements. So if there's rationale or reason beyond that, certainly the ordinance does allow for the planning commission to have some additional requirements such as setbacks and so forth, but I think there needs to be some type of rationale or basis for that. I don't think it can be just for, it's not desired in that area. I think, in the case of the setback requirement adjustment, that was to anticipate should there be a collapse of the tower, or just like any other type of structure, that there be an area so it doesn't fall onto adjacent property. So it's all contained within that site. And that's within our ordinance, and at this point, they have adjusted their location to meet that requirement. So in meeting all of the standards of the ordinance, I don't know much more than we would have the ability to adjust anything beyond where it's at this point.
Molly?
So what you're saying is we can't contemplate what's in the future. This is zoned agriculture, so if somebody wanted to put in a yard to hold cows to sell, and it was going to be something that happened it was going to be there for a long time. We couldn't say, I don't think so, because we want to put single-family residential there. We can't go back and use our master plan.
Well, I think that's in the intent of why the federal government has the Telecommunications Act to begin with, because and it has been amended and adjusted over time, because if there would be challenges to locating these types of facilities, and so that's including the issue that we had related to the environmental effects. Those are things that the FCC has governs over, and it's also the placement. Why there are things that the local community can weigh in on, there are also limitations to that authority. That's where the Federal Telecommunications Act comes into play in a lot of these things.
Okay, thank you.
On the driveway issue, is there any, can we guarantee that the neighbor can still have their driveway 20 feet away? Is there, is the permit already issued or accepted by the road commission? So
I don't know if obviously they'll be required to have a driveway permit with the road commission. I don't know if we've seen that yet.
I don't know if we have. We can ask road commission if they've weighed in on this. Also versus both their and our standards. I know there's limitations with adding new driveways to parcels in our own ordinance, and they have their own driveway spacing standards as well. I don't know if they've weighed in specifically on this one yet.
I was just,
Yeah.
to our public comment
Yeah.
regarding the neighboring property, which is that easement right there that goes into Gilroy's is what he's referring to. I want to make sure that he's not, nothing's going to happen that's going to downplay his property or make it so
Yeah.
he can't have his driveway the way it needs to be. If we could check on that, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we have requirements in our ordinance, but I believe it's, in our review of it, meets those. I know there may be some standards that the road commission has, but we will definitely check up on that.
And then one other thing on that driveway, we don't have the site plan in here, but there was a gate on it near the road. And I just want to make sure that they keep that gate moved in as long as what their vehicles are going to be using, so that they're not parked out in the road trying to open that gate. It looked, in that first original site plan that we had last month, it showed it kind of close to the road, so if they could double check that and make sure that gate's in far enough, so
Yeah, absolutely.
it's not causing a traffic hold up.
Are you here on behalf of the applicant?
On behalf of the applicant, yes. Am I able to address any
Go ahead.
questions?
There you go.
My name is Jamie Matthew. I'm with Kimley Horn. Address is 4201 Winfield Road, Warrenville, Illinois, 60555. Regarding the road driveway permit, we are required to request a driveway permit from the road commission. Typically, we wait till after zoning approval, but prior to building permit requests, since that is usually a requirement. For those driveway permits, I believe standard is that they'll have someone from the road commission perform a site visit. They'll determine, if the location meets their setback requirements, if there's a culvert that needs to be installed. So that would all be determined at that point. If we do get rejected down the road, then we'd revise the access. When we deliberate on where to propose a location and when we consider the access roads, we do look at closest to the right-of-way. That just allows quickest access for emergency vehicles if need be, that they need to be on site. And I believe the property owner preemptively back in 2023, when we initially reached out to them to discuss this location, had pulled a driveway permit. So it had been approved. Obviously, we would reapply under Tower North, the tower owner for the property, so that we have the permit under our application. So just want to say that would all be addressed at that point.
Molly?
Since you got up there.
Yeah.
Okay, would you put my mind at ease as far as lights on this tower? We've
Yeah.
had lots of discussion about that, and I'm hearing that there will be no lights there, but did
So
you say
if-
that there are no
There are no lights. Since the tower is under 200 feet, 200 feet is typically the limit that the FAA requires lighting to be installed on the tower. So since we're proposing 155 feet, no lighting is required for aeronautical, aviation, hazard purposes. So they're not being proposed. The tower company's not going to install them. They know that if it's not required, it won't be placed on the tower.
It does seem to be right in the flight path.
We have, I believe in our original application package, we did submit the location to the FAA, and they filed a determination of no hazard. So they reviewed the location based on the nearby airport as well. That's all taken into consideration. If there was an issue, they'd come back and let us know what the maximum height that we would be able to install the tower is at.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? John?
Chris, I just want to mention, for those that may have just be aware of this evening, we do have the full file in our office. The public is welcome to inspect it, call us or whatever, come in. We did not include all the backup information that goes with this at this juncture, because we know Planning Commission has seen it several times, but I just want to let the public know that it's available out there for inspection.
And all that information is available in past,
Yes, previous packets are
online.
online on the township website.
also as paper in your office.
Correct.
Yes.
Well, if there's no further discussion, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to direct staff to prepare findings of fact for application SUP 2024-02, submitted by Tower North Development LLC for a special use permit for a wireless communications facility at 2767 Zimmerman Road on a portion of parcel 05-019-001-00 of the Planning Commission regular meeting on March 12, 2015.
Support.
We have a motion by Klein, support by Robertson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same. The motion passes. We look forward to considering the findings of fact at our next meeting. Not our next meeting, our meeting in March.
Correct, yes.
Right.
And that will include the standards that, of that section 792, but also, and I think that's kind of what Molly was alluding to, the standards for all special use permits. So that's the evaluation of against the standards of the zoning ordinance and the master plan and impact on the surrounding neighborhood. So all of that is part of the findings of fact. So I would say especially this might warrant a thorough discussion of the findings, draft findings when we get to that in March, in light of those things.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Well, with that, we'll move on to our next item of unfinished business, PD 2025-12, Copper Ridge PUD Major Amendment Follow-up.
So this is a continuation of the review for the major amendment application to the Copper Ridge Plan Unit Development. As you recall, there was a public hearing held back in December. There was a consideration of findings of fact at the previous meeting in January by the Planning Commission, and then there was a tabling of the application to allow for some additional review for the uses that are being requested. And just to recall what the application is about, there are a variety of uses that are permitted as a mixed-use plan unit development on the site when it was originally approved in 2000 and had some subsequent amendments to it. What the developer of at least the Copper Ridge LLC portion of the PUD is asking for is some additional uses in there and to create some flexibility in the application of those uses for some of the remaining development sites that have not been built out. So this, with the addition of essentially restoration of the residential dwellings, this kicks in the major amendment process for that. And so the way this process goes is there's an introduction, public hearing, which was already held pursuant to the zoning ordinance, and then findings of fact, and then recommendation to the town board. When it goes to the town board, they will be required to also conduct another public hearing at that level before they consider action on the amendment application. So as we've been going through this, we've been working with the applicant in a way to try to refine the application a little bit in terms of the uses. So there were, it was a much more broader use request initially, and so this process, if anything, has been trying to refine that a little bit more. Most recently, in our conversations with the applicant, is to actually tie some of these uses to defined uses within the zoning ordinance. That way it eliminates any type of confusion or misinterpretation. So we've created a kind of a table that identifies what are the uses that are currently approved, what are some of the uses that are being added into the PUD, or at least that portion of the PUD, and then there are some that are actually kind of I would call them subsets of some existing uses within the ordinance that we've added in there, just have some restriction and some clarification. But before we get into that, I know the applicant is here, and I thought it would be very helpful to kind of do a recap and present the overall application so we have a good foundation for the Planning Commission to consider this evening. So Sarah Kiever is here.
I might
so-
add, I appreciate your explanation of the process. I think it was good. And that's been my experience with this body, and there was a request for another public hearing. I don't recall that in our experience that we've had another public hearing in that way. We've had public hearings. We've had some public hearings that are incomplete and then carry over into a next public hearing. But in this case, we had a public hearing, we heard comment, and then what's occurred since has been deliberation on planning commissioners' understanding and questions and deliberate, and which was informed by the public comment that we heard. So I don't know that there's a reason to have another public hearing. As you said, there's another opportunity for public comment when this goes, or if it goes to the trustees.
Correct.
Thank you. Good evening. Sarah Kiever, Northview 22. Steve, if you may, would you bring up the exhibit that we spoke about earlier? I believe it's pertinent to go back over 20 years. Just a reminder for everyone. Maybe it's something we should have done earlier, but it's an opportunity to look again at what Copper Ridge PUD is. Back in 2000, 2001, I dare say this might be one of the first mixed-use PUD projects that was granted in Garfield Township, if not Grand Traverse County. And this is a true example of a mixed-use development. From day one all the way through today, it's an example of mixed use. It has continued to be those mixed uses. You know it, you're familiar with it, but just to go through and get a refresher of how this was approved, there's been some changes, there's been modifications. Just like a community shifts, changes, grows, so do PUDs. And we've seen that, that's happened here. But even since the original, there's been a mixed use of offices, retail, commercial. There was a gym. There was a mixture of multifamily, single family, many different types of offices. And even there was a component for senior living and assisted living throughout the development. Steve, if you don't mind, if you could zoom in on the area, it is labeled Buildings 124. So down there.
And down here?
A little bit to the, would be the west.
Okay. 124.
Yes, and if you could zoom into there.
Okay.
So that is an area that was originally approved. This was one of the units, building 24 was a 14,000 square foot, 24 unit assisted living facility. And the other building that's labeled building number 100 is actually 100 units. And I believe it was allowed to be 4 stories and a total of 72,000 square feet. And also in addition, even further to the west, and this is still part of the PUD, this is a future building. Its potential use is a fitness center, senior apartments, extended care facility. And this is approximately 26,000 square feet footprint. So we've seen this, again, from day one, a variety of uses, uses that fit the community, that serve a need for the community. And as we've also seen throughout over 20 years, some of the demand changes. And so that building 124, that was in roughly the early to mid 2000s. The senior living and assisted buildings was removed and instead was replaced because of the need for housing at that time. It was, ironically, replaced with 124 units to be in that quadrant there. Again, I say ironically because not too long after that, we started to see, dare I say, a glut of residential units. We did go through a time, believe it or not, where residential was not a priority in this area. And we probably all experienced it in different way, especially with the advent of the recession of 2008 and 2009. Instead, it was reduced. That area alone was reduced to from 124. It was reduced down to, I believe it was 68. And then it was further reduced down to 38 units. And so what you see today in the PUD exhibit that's before you shows the half of what's approved. So it shows the 19 of the 38 units. But that future building, just to remind you, that future building to the west of that is still part of this PUD. Not to say that there's any plans for it at this moment. I don't know that there are. But it's just to remind everyone that this is a PUD of mixed use and a variety of uses. And it has changed. As we see up in there, the Eagles View community has changed. It is now up to, I believe it's 55 units. 55 single-family units are in that. From day one, this plan and every major amendment was reviewed by the commission, and it was also a traffic study was done. Everything was done to make sure that the infrastructure, the surrounding road network, everything about this PUD would be complete, whole, and fit within the community. And throughout the years, of course, again, we do see now the need for housing. We all know that. And so bringing back the need for housing, bringing back the opportunity for housing in some of the remaining units that are left to be built is why we're here. This is not introducing some brand new concept. This is over 20 years old, almost 25 years old. This is nothing new. This is not introducing a new concept that there's never been multifamily here, that there's never been commercial uses here. That's not the case at all. It has been. It's been defined as this. It has been developed as such and has been operating as such for so many years. And so that's, in a nutshell, that's the PUD. That's what Copper Ridge is. And it's good to just remember what was the intent, what has it been developed into, and a working, very successful development within the community that's serviced a lot of needs within this community and continues to do so, in addition with this proposed amendment. Just to further say, it's already been talked about. Thank you, John and Chris, for discussing this. But I respectfully disagree with Ms. Freeman. We have followed the process very closely, along with your assistance with both staff and responding to the commissioners. Nothing new that has in your packet tonight is new. It has been a further refining of uses that are introduced on day one. And in all reality, what we've done is reduced the uses that were originally asked for. It was a broad scope. When we asked for commercial, that could have meant a lot of things. But at your request, we have instead refined and pared down to what those uses are. So this is nothing new. This is not anything that nobody has ever seen before, but rather it's defined for you to be able to review. And we'd be happy to talk about any one of those uses. And I'm not saying that we don't want to discuss those. But it's just to make clear that it's nothing new. That these uses are further defined for you to review, and it's also for township staff as well. If this were to be approved, they now have a document that they can turn to, whether it be John, Steve, or Mike, being able to go to this document and be able to look exactly what are the uses allowed in this PUD. And so it's a helpful document for them, it's a helpful document for you all, and again, we'd be happy to answer any questions about those uses within this project. With that, I'm going to have Connie Dunawith added to my speech.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, Connie Dunawith, 9590 Edgewood Avenue, Traverse City, Michigan. I'm the developer of Copper Ridge. Planning Commission last meeting, to pick up where we left off, asked me to table a request last meeting and spend some time with the residential area, which we did do. We had a nice meeting and I think calmed a lot of concerns. I want to give you just a brief update of how that went. The third entrance exit, Steve, could you slide that up just a little so I can see Barnes Road? That third farthest to the left entrance has never been connected. It's there. It drives through Copper Village, which is not my property, but drives through Copper Village, and there's about 50 feet of gravel that does not connect to Eagles View. And if that was connected, I think that it would alleviate some traffic concerns. I did get on the phone and talk to Mike Comstock, who is the developer of Copper Village, and Mike Comstock said his property is for sale. He thought that the original developer of Phase 1 would be required to connect that gravel road, that last piece that's only 50 feet. There you go. Thank you. That's how it really looks today. So the entrance is off Barnes and it goes all along that property line, but could you highlight the area that's not connected? Yeah, right there. That you've got that little green line. Yeah, yep. That's not connected. Mm-hmm. So I think that there was a mistake made by previous permitting or building authorities that didn't require that connection to be made when they built the original Phase 1 of that project. But Mike said when he either builds Phase 2 or he sells the property, he will notify the next developer of Phase 2 of that, all those loops that are just empty right now, that connection is required to be made. So that was something that at least we got to understand how it occurred with the residential Copper View and discuss how and when. My understanding is it'll be completed. There was also concerns that we were going to build a hotel. We're not going to build a hotel. We haven't asked for a hotel to be built. There was concerns that all 4 vacant lots that are on our discussion right now would be retail. Well, we're not going to do retail. That was never an issue. Retail would be in Retail 4 area, and then there could be some retail in Building 10. So it was half as of an impact as someone thought all lots would be retail. Another concern that the residential area had was that United Way, which is right in the middle of the screen, says 4075, that's the address. United Way building, put their sign instead of on the east side of the building, it's on the north side, which kind of glares into the residential area. And United Way, I don't know how or why I wasn't involved in that approval, nor did they ask Copper Ridge. But when ECI left and United Way went in, somehow a sign got approved on the north end instead of the east end where ECI used to have their sign. So anyway, United Way said, we want to be good neighbors. We don't want blaring neon lights. They unplugged their sign. They're either going to move it to the east side or just leave it unplugged. Or put it on a timer so that it's only on during the day, but I don't know why you'd waste electricity to have a sign on during the day. But anyway, that's the entrance to the dental clinic, so they wanted people to, and it's the entrance to their parking lot, so they wanted to direct traffic there. That's kind of why they did it, but, so we got a lot of things worked out, which was great. And then traffic concerns was another topic, and as a result of our meeting and as a result of our annual Copper Ridge Site Condominium Association meeting, we all collectively agreed to install one additional stop sign and 4 additional signs that notify people this is a 4-way stop. You must stop. You know, you don't have the right of way. So anyway, we addressed some ongoing, perceived to be chronic issues. I can't make people stop when they see a stop sign. They should stop when they see a stop sign. That's the law. But the more we can notify them, and we're even going to have one sign solar powered, so it will be flashing. So safety is a very important, critical topic for Copper Ridge. We care about safety. We care about everybody enjoying the complex, and you know, nothing happens to anybody that isn't that is dangerous. In closing, I also wanted to let you know that we're not trying to be evasive, and I know that Eagles View area would like us to continue talking about this. This has been 3 months of talking about this. We're not trying to be evasive. We don't know exactly what we're going to do with these 4 remaining lots. Number one, because I'm not ready to build them myself with our group, with our owners. We would like to market them and sell them to younger, more energetic developers. This has been 25 years. I'm ready to finish this project, and I know that you would like it finished. In fact, in the last month, I have talked to 2 developers that are very interested because they've heard that we are considering adding a additional residential component as an alternate zoning for the 4 vacant lots. And one residential developer is very interested in the possibility of putting condominiums into lot 3, 4 down by the surgery center and lot 10. He feels that the apartment market is oversaturated, and he felt that there's still a very strong appetite for condominiums. I can't say that's going to happen, but it's the first time I've had a real discussion in 20 years on those parcels. So it was very exciting. And then I also talked to somebody who was interested in potentially retail 4, the empty box in the middle bottom of the screen, retail 4, and they would like to consider the possibility of putting just a couple units, residential units on top. That's a 2-story building, and then retail on the lower level, which is flows really well with the traffic in that whole retail area. So again, I'm not trying to be evasive, but I'm just letting you know, over 20 years, this is what what the market is, the market is, who wants to buy these lots. They're going to be testing the market in Grand Traverse County and the city and buying and building something that people want. So I don't have purchase agreements. I can't say this is exactly what we're going to do, but I can tell you what discussions I've had in the last 30 days that are meaningful discussions. So I would, in conclusion, ask that you not consider tabling this request for the following reasons. Due to the fact that it's potentially significantly lower density than what has already been approved and already existing. And the fact that we've reduced, as John has said, we've reduced the number of requests of potential uses. So we've given some, the township's given some. We also have spent 3 months reviewing and discussing a matter that the zoning is already in place and has already been approved in this very complicated, very comprehensive mixed-use project that was intended for uses to flow. That's the whole purpose of a mixed use. In the meantime, on these 4 vacant lots, we've paid a cumulative sum of $800,000 in property taxes, just holding them, waiting for either some developer to come along or us to develop it. And we need to, from an economic standpoint, we need to stop the bleeding of property taxes. So those are all our objectives, to finish the project, finish it in a high-quality manner, and make it nice for all components of the entire complex. I don't know if you have any questions or concerns.
Commissioner?
Am I allowed to take I think I'm only supposed to be talking to the board.
Does anyone have any questions or concerns for the applicant? I think we're set for
You've
now.
heard enough from me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Chris.
Well, what is the planning commission's pleasure? I think one of the refinements that we have in front of us, page 1 of 4, has a nicely highlighted list of the different uses. And John, why don't you give us a little explanation of that?
Right, we thought this would be just working with the applicant, as we discussed, about refining this to the point where it might be a little bit easier to understand. So there's everything that's on the left side of that table is what's permitted today. So they don't need to come to the planning commission, town board, or anything like that. They can build those out those locations with those uses. And then on the right side is what's proposed. The blue is what's existing approved uses. Those are things they can do right now. What we did is just create equivalents to what we have in the zoning ordinance in terms of definitions. So instead of saying professional and medical office suites, we put in medical office clinics or offices. And then, so those are defined in the zoning ordinance. Then the yellow ones are added uses to create the flexibility for build-out. We thought we utilized some of our commercial office district to identify compatible uses in there. And so those are ones that are currently defined within the zoning ordinance. And so those are ones that we can easily go to the ordinance. If somebody's proposing something, does it fit? Obviously, there's ability to do still interpretation. There may be some use that's similar that's not necessarily directly listed here, but that's what is typical that we do for all locations within the township when it comes to zoning and uses that are permitted. But we have definitions for those, so those are very clear. And then the green ones are really variations of, as I mentioned, kind of like subset uses. Like, for instance, we know that it makes sense to have what we're defining as an overnight surgery recovery facility, giving its close proximity to the surgery center that's on site. And that's a new use essentially, but it's really similar to other uses within the ordinance now, but it's just more narrowly defined. So it is something that would work, and I know the Connie and her team have really noticed that there's a good chance that something like that could be developed, given its proximity and the demand for the surgery center and all the activity there. Physical fitness facilities is another one. We have a indoor recreational facility type of thing, which has a lot of uses in there, but we know that the physical fitness facilities that they currently have on site, if they could provide those in some of the other areas within there, those are pretty minimally, active spaces there. Those are typically gyms and workout facilities. The other one is multiple family dwelling. It's important to understand when we say multiple family dwellings, it can be apartments, it can be condos. It's basically attached units. Single family is detached, which could be a condo in itself as well, or it could be just an owned outright, but it's really just the form is detached, where multifamily is attached. Our only concern here is the reference to the short-term stays, and I mentioned in our report, as you're aware, that the township doesn't allow for short-term rentals. We do have the backing of a Court of Appeals opinion from 2018. We're kind of concerned that, as it's stated there, that could create some confusion. It's something that we don't really define in our ordinance, and we'd like to allow for multiple family dwellings. We certainly believe that residential makes good use in these areas. They're definitely less impactful than offices, particularly medical offices, which get a lot of activity. Residential tends to be less in terms of traffic generation and is more stable in terms of active uses. It's just that added portion under there that includes short-term stays. The other comment in the report is just related back to that Building 10, is on the retail low volume and medium volume. It does, under Building 9, formerly Building 9, which is now Building 10, did mention general and office, professional offices, and then service retail. So there is a retail component there, but the ordinance doesn't really define service retail. The previous ordinance, of which this development was originally adopted, does not have a definition of that. But it makes sense from when we look at the case history on this, that what service retail and its relationship to offices was probably providing some type of a service that you pay for. It could be like a photocopy shop or something of that nature. It wasn't outright retail, because that's where the marketplace area was really defined for outright retail. Our definitions of low volume retail and medium volume retail is just outright retail and not necessarily service retail. So we suggested as an alternative to that could be the use of business service establishments, which we have a definition listed there on the fourth page of that document, where it says establishments, that's personal. I don't have, it's not listed there because it wasn't intended to be there, but I can give you a definition of what that means. Business service establishment is establishments primarily engaged in providing services for businesses, including photocopying, equipment rental, and other similar services. So it's intended to be complementary to that. The reason our concern is in that location is there is just the number of potential for trips generated to that site and the activity located there. And I know there was some just some concern of the planning commission about the impact of that location in particular. But we think that the business service establishment would be a good alternative to that.
And that's a definition that's already in our ordinance.
Correct. And so our thought in this, we think there's been a lot of work back and forth with the applicant and staff, and we think this is in really good shape. And we think that the findings, if it were to address the short-term stays and then the two retail, replacing those with business service establishments, that would allow the findings which are provided in here to move forward in the application to the town board.
John, could you speak a little bit more about the short-term stay aspect versus the overnight surgery recovery facility? The overnight surgery recovery facility would be directly associated with the medical services that are available at Copper Ridge, and the intent would be that someone, and I read from the definition that you provided, basically someone coming for, maybe from a distance away, or they have an early morning surgery, they could spend the night in one of these units in conjunction with those services.
Correct. So the definition for overnight surgery recovery facility is a building, a portion thereof, or buildings offering overnight lodging accommodations to patients in preparation of surgery or for recovery from surgery. So we know that the surgery center there, which is very active, really it doesn't allow for overnight stays. There may have an occasional situation, but there are a lot of people that are traveling to this location long distances. They want to be there, say, the night before surgery, or if for some reason they really can't travel afterwards and need some amount of recovery, and being close proximity to the surgery center makes a lot of sense. So it's really in relationship to that, where it's having narrowly defined overnight lodging accommodations for that purpose.
Versus a short-term stay in dwellings multiple family would, as you indicated, would be something akin to, or specifically, a short-term rental, which is contradictory to what we've allowed anywhere else in the township.
Right, and our concern is the precedent that it could send. It could potentially work in this location, but the concern here is what establishment it does in terms of precedent, so that now we've kind of opened up the gate for short-term rentals elsewhere within the township. And it's that opinion that we have from the 2018 Court of Appeals is one that we're able to rely on to help us enforce short-term rental situations that we have elsewhere within the township, and just concerned about the precedent that could set for other areas within the community. As well as we think it's reasonable to say that it does still allow for rentals of long-term rentals, but just wouldn't allow for short-term.
Thank you. Well, questions, concerns on the part of the commissioners?
So how do you want to handle that part of it, to get rid of the short-term rentals? Is that, would you condition that gets removed from this?
That's what we're recommending. We think that if you were to remove that and then the two references with the retail, the findings that we've provided in the report would be valid.
Okay, and then when we were looking earlier at that map, could you bring that back up to that connection that we talked about, that third connection there, up to Eagle View? Is there part of that Eagle View property that's gonna have to have asphalt added, and would the developer of the other one, that Comstock parcel, they wouldn't want to, would they be allowed to, you see where it looks like there's some of if that developer from the Comstock property went up there to his property line, you still wouldn't have the road connected.
Right, so it's
there.
intended to
So who would pay
connect.
for that?
So that would be for the Copper Village development. So it was, you can see where it was originally supposed to go. It was supposed
Right.
to go in, but because of the grade there and the topo,
But,
they made the adjustment, and the revised site plan has that connection. It was redone in 2014, where it has that, from that Tribeca Court up to that Eagles View. They revised that through site plan.
so my question would be, tomorrow, if somebody comes in there and bought that parcel or the Comstock property and put that pavement up there to their property line, there's still gonna be a connection. Who would do that connection on the Eagle View side?
So that would be, the Copper Village would be required to do that.
Okay, they could do that even though it's on somebody
Yeah.
else's property?
Yeah, well, there's, and I can't,
We would give them permission to access Copperidge site.
Oh, that's your, I thought that was
We-
housing.
click on there.
Control and manage the roads.
Okay, I thought maybe it was the residential part of it.
Well, I would imagine originally there was intent to connect that, so I'm not sure how the easements, the access easements are structured on this site, but I don't know if there's like blanket easements that you have? Okay, because I'm assuming there would be, the benefit of that connection isn't the Copper Village, the benefit of that connection is the people up
Sure,
above.
but I just wanted to make sure there was.
So I'm sure there was some type of blanket easements that, because it's not going to be built as was originally approved. So I imagine there's easements in place that allows them access out to Barnes and out to Silver Lake Road, not necessarily having to define it, because that could be altered, but, because if they didn't have those easements, they would not have access to their property.
Okay, well, my worry was that they could get to that property line and it still would not be finished because there was some on the top side, but, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further thoughts? What do you guys think about John's recommendations regarding the short-term stays? Or effectively an SDR.
I agree
Molly?
with him.
But it's associated with the medical facility. You can't just stay there.
There's two parts. There's the multifamily with the short-term stays, and then the overnight surgery facility, lodging facility is a totally separate one. So that would be permitted as it's defined in here. It's just removing the part when it relates to short-term stays,
and the other.
multifamily dwellings.
So
So
it's
yeah,
going to be
if you were in that overnight facility and if you only had to stay there for a night or 2 nights, that would be permitted.
But it has to be associated with
Surgery center,
the surgery center.
correct. Mhm.
So John, if we were to accept that recommendation to eliminate the short-term stays, would we need to add a condition to the motions you've recommended?
So, yeah, on page 7 of 7, there's 2 motions there. One is to adopt the findings of fact, and that's fine as is. I probably should have at least drafted something there, but the second motion, well, it says with the revised list of proposed permitted uses, and I would probably say including the removal of the retail. The retail in,
Did you say as described in PD report?
yeah, I would say as described in PD report. That would probably be sufficient, PD report 2025-12.
So that would omit remind me again which retail that would strike?
It would strike the low-volume retail and the medium-volume retail in 10. Now, I would ask if you want,
So in yellow there.
correct. Now, we could, one thing that, as an alternative, and I think would be appropriate, is to include business service establishments. So that would be more in keeping with the service retail. So I don't know if they would be, I think that would be appropriate. And I guess that is all mentioned in the report.
Does everybody understand what the impacts of those recommendations are?
So what would they be on each one of these? They're
Sorry?
on each one, so there's, to amend this, it would be on building 3 and 4, you would remove this.
Correct. That's,
Is that the only one for that one?
Yep.
This one,
That would stay the same.
That stays the same. This one, these two go away, add service establishment business, and then this removes as well.
Correct.
And that's it?
Yep.
That's
And-
what I understand the recommendations would achieve.
Okay.
Yep.
And just so you know, those are stated on page 3 of 7 in the report about, under 1, it talks about replacing service business establishment. So it's listed there, replacing the retail, low volume, retail, medium volume, and then just the other one is just the altering, keeping multifamily dwelling, but just removing the short-term stays reference. So it's in the report.
Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion, is anybody ready to make a motion?
Chair, I'll make the motion that the findings of fact for application SUP 2000-08-0 submitted by Sarah Kiever on behalf of Copper Ridge LLC for an amendment to the Copper Ridge Planned Unit Development be adopted.
Support.
We have a motion by Augustinelli and support by Robertson. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same.
Okay, then I'll make the motion that application SUP 2000-08-0 submitted by Sarah Kiever on behalf of Copper Ridge for an amendment to the Copper Ridge Planned Unit Development be recommended for approval to the Township Board with the revised list of proposed permitted uses, including removal of retail as described in PD 2025-12.
Support.
Does that cover you?
Yeah, I think if you can just say as described. You don't have to reference the retail, but just say as described in PD report 2025-12.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Joe.
Support.
Motion by Augustinelli, support by Robertson. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same. Motion passes. All right, with that, we'll move on to new business. PD 2025-13, Beta TCHC PUD minor amendment, flats at Carriage Commons.
So this is a application for minor amendment to the Beta Traverse City Housing Commission mixed-use development, plan unit development there on the Franier Road. This is in particular to the flats at Carriage Commons. So this was an item that you looked at in May of last year as the start of, or just before the start of the construction of the first phase of the apartments, as the Housing Commission was working with MISTA. Apparently, the location of the playground.
John, if you could give me, if the discussion can move out into the hallway, please. Ma'am, if you could move your discussion out of the hallway, please, thank you. Thank you, John.
Sure. So there was the proximity of the playground to the gas main, which runs on the east side of the site. So at that point, the Phase 1 was adjusted to remove the playground area until they could come up with an alternative plan. So at that time, the Housing Commission and the developer did provide roughly about $65,000 to cover the cost of the construction of the playground at some point in the future. They have since worked with MISTA to mitigate that issue, including berming along there to allow for that playground to go back into Phase 1. So basically, the request is to go back which was originally approved. Also, as part of this application, is there are 2 directional sign locations being included. So those, if you look at the site plan, at the very top, up in the left corner, you have the main drive coming off of Lafreniere Road. And it goes, I'm sorry, because originally in the packet I had these highlighted and it didn't come out in the print. But there's a cul-de-sac essentially, and there are two locations. There's one for a wayfinding signage, kind of basically is telling people that, okay, so that it came in.
And the online apparently
On
came
the
in.
online one, okay, so, yeah, so Steve has it identified. So the one there is what's being proposed, and that's the diagram that shows the description of what those signs will look like. And it'll say the flats, it'll have basically the address numbers to the buildings, so as people are coming into there, they know, should they go straight or should they turn or whatever. And then there's one right across from there that will identify those future uses, those commercial uses for the daycare and so forth. So those directional signs are required by the zoning ordinance to come in front of the planning commission. So the timing of that worked out well, so to include that application with this minor amendment. And again, the minor amendment is just to amend the phasing plan to go back to include the playground into the first phase, which is currently under construction, and this will allow them to, as well, for us to release that bond amount for the construction of that, because that will be included as part of the construction of phase one.
Anybody have any questions or concerns? John, I'm curious, it indicates on the sign diagram, external lighting fixtures. Can we presume that the lighting will meet our ordinance?
Yes, I mean, that's, so what you're doing right now is approving the signs and the placement of the signs at that location. They're still going to be required to go through a sign permit.
Okay.
So they'll have to make application, and the zoning administrator will review that to make sure it meets our sign lighting requirements.
So we're only just approving the location?
Yeah, the location and the quantity of the signs.
Okay. Well, if no one has any questions or concerns, there is a recommended motion.
It's actually
Three of them, in fact.
I'll make the motion. Motion number one, that findings of fact for application PUD 2020-02-D included in PD report 2025-13 and forming part of this motion be approved.
Support.
We have a motion by Klein, support by Fudge. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same. Motion passes.
Also make motion two, that application PUD 2020-02-D submitted by Traverse City Housing Commission to change the phasing plan of the multi-family residential buildings for the Beta TCHC transit-oriented mixed-use PUD on parcel 05023-042-40 be approved with the following conditions listed 1 through 4.
Support.
Motion by Klein, support by Fudge. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same. Motion two passes.
Also make motion three, that it sign application PUD 2020-02-D for 4 directional signs for the flats at Carriage Commons to be located at Beta TCHC transit-oriented mixed-use PUD on parcel 05-023-042-40 be approved.
Support.
Motion by Klein, support by Fudge. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same. That motion passes as well. All right, with that, we'll move on from to new business item B, PD 2025-14, Ollie's Bargain Outlet CP District Site Plan Review.
So So you received a little bit of insight in this when we had this discussed previously at the first meeting in January. So this is at the Grand Traverse Mall. This is the former location for the tenant of TJ Maxx. It's which is currently vacant. It's a roughly about a 27,800 square foot floor area space. The proposed new retail use is Ollie's Bargain Outlet at that location. Typically, we do not review these types of changes in businesses because there's no real change of use here. However, they are adding a new entrance to the space, which is effectively an added exterior entrance to the mall. So in that case, there has been review. Previously, there was, when Dunham Sports went in, for instance, in the old theater area, that did actually go through the site plan review process by the Planning Commission back in 2015. So this is being reviewed. Essentially, it's providing a new door on the north side of the building. There's actually a loading dock door there now that will remain in place. And to the left of that will be this new door with a walk-up where there'll be stairs as well as a ramp. One of the concerns that, or changes that we had some concern over was the closure of the connection between this space and the remainder of the mall. We did review through the ordinance and any ability to look at that and weigh in on that from the Planning Commission standpoint. And there really isn't anything in the ordinance that gives us any insight to weigh in on that. We did have a meeting with representatives from Brookfield Properties, which owns the mall. They did provide us with a letter indicating that there's no plans to convert this into a strip center, effectively, removing the interior portion of the mall. So there's, the only thing that we have some insight or the ability to address this issue is in the ordinance when it talks about planned shopping centers in the comprehensive development plan, similar to what was done with the Cherryland Center. Now, in that case, you could require a comprehensive development plan if there's good reason, if there's a lot of changeover in uses and so forth. I think at this juncture, there's really, while it is kind of altering that space, I don't think there's enough to really warrant the need for a comprehensive development plan for the whole site. However, we do have that letter from Brookfield that does, it is something for the file in essence, that we document this as it going forward to ensure that we have a good sense of what is happening there at the mall currently. So we'll see what happens in the future. Generally, as it's proposed, we didn't really have any other standards that we could apply to the actual application at this time.
Chris,
Go ahead, Molly.
a question. Do we have some kind of guarantee, whatever it is, that we're not going to see a bunch of stuff out in front on this? The rest of the buildings don't have exterior entrances that are not retail. And this is retail too, but I want to see a line of kayaks or, that kind of stuff out there.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I know, like the Dunhams potentially could. We've had other sporting goods places or whatever have stuff out there, or we have places like, some of our home good types places where they're,
You end up with lawn furniture
Yeah.
and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
Is that something we regulate or?
we could put it as a condition of the approval. It would be appropriate. Part of that is to ensure that there's safe ingress and egress out of the building. And there isn't anything that on the site as what they're proposing to do any outdoor display, which we do regulate. So there is, so I would you could include that as a condition to prohibit any outdoor display.
So my initial concern was whether it would create a dead space inside the mall and whether it would be safety issues with that. But I went and walked the area and didn't find it objectionable in that sense. I'm kind of thinking that we need to have some ability for malls to evolve in some way for them to stay sustainable. My biggest concern when we make moves like this is activating backsides of buildings that typically have not been, and I think about Cherryland, and I had made public comment a while ago about that if we're going to allow access, public access on backsides of buildings, that we work hard to make it feel like the front side of a building and that it's welcoming and inviting and safe.
John, I presume there's no one here representing the applicant?
I wasn't expecting anybody,
Okay.
because they're all out of state, and
Wasn't sure if there'd be anybody to answer any questions or concerns, so. All right, anyone else with anything? I've got a lot, but everybody else have an opportunity before I unload.
I just had one question too. John, the signage, it meets our requirements? The sign size?
that would be under a separate application. I don't think that,
It's,
I know references to what they were planning out there was a lot more than what would be permitted. So they're limited to 100 square feet. So this approval they would not govern the signs.
it's just the entrance that we're discussing then?
Yeah,
Okay.
they would have to go through separate sign permit application that would
Lighting
be
and-
reviewed by the zoning. Now, it is a planned shopping center. They could come to you and request an increase beyond the 100 square feet. They can get a 50% increase, but historically, the planning commission has not permitted that unless it's for some reason. And, I mean, here it's very clear that it's visible. You can see it. I mean, so I don't think there would be, but we've seen those applications before come in front of the planning commission, so.
TJ Maxx formerly had a sign on one of these walls, did they not?
They do on the side that faces 31. So I think in our ordinance, I think it's related only to the entrance.
I
So
believe
that's
that's how
a
it's
good question on
defined.
that sign, if that would still be,
I don't know how long that was there previously to, the new zoning ordinance was in 2015. I don't know how old that sign had been in place. Mhm.
I'm generally not averse to, alleys or to even their entrance as they propose it. What I'm concerned about is as it were, pun intended, backdoor way to start to turn this mall into an exterior strip mall and eliminate the connectivity on the interior. I see Brookfield has proposed an excuse where they're saying the reason for closing off the interior entry is for theft. It's a legitimate concern, but all the other similar stores, similarly situated, are able to manage running their operation with both an exterior and an interior door. I'm thinking of Dunham's, I'm thinking of Macy's, JCPenney, Target. Littering of the interior of the center with shopping carts. Target has shopping carts. To my knowledge, they don't litter the interior of the shopping center. So I don't think that that's a particularly good excuse for us to consider to provide evidence for them to eliminate an interior entrance. I personally don't think that they've tried hard enough to come up with a plan that allows them to have both, if they want to have a retail, I'm looking at A150 in particular. It's their sheet with their, if you could pull it up, Steve. Their sheet with their overall layout. I'm confident that if they wanted to sharpen their pencils and press on their architects a little harder, that they could come up with a plan, either that has, frankly, 2 sets of retail checkout opportunities, one for the interior of their mall, one for this exterior entrance. Alternatively, I don't see why they couldn't, this is maybe a big ask, but can you go to Google Maps at all? And what I'm curious about is, well, not curious, I've been there, I've seen it. I'd like to see the entrance from this angle right here.
Whoops.
Basically, there's a community entrance into the mall. Yep, yeah, there we go. So if you just drive a little bit to the left there, yep, there's a community
This
entrance to
one.
the mall right
Okay.
there.
Mhm.
And then if you,
There's a bunch of Target shopping carts.
yeah, well, there we go.
You asked me to look at Google
There we
Maps. This
go.
is what's here.
Well, I suppose we'll have some Ollie's shopping carts to add to those. But that's the Ollie's store. The double doors there on the left are a private entrance into the some of the different stores. But I personally don't see why they couldn't. If you'd go back to A150. Those double doors are up there on the left side.
That's these private ones into the community entrance would be over
Yeah.
here somewhere.
Why couldn't
Well, it'd be
they
right where
make
those doors
that
are.
their
Those are exterior doors.
These
those
the
are
doors?
exterior doors. Why couldn't they put their exterior doors right that? In fact, in my opinion, this suggestion would be doing them a favor because they wouldn't need to have all of the ramps and stairs that are required where they're proposing. Because that is it's a level entrance into that location. Plus, there's existing handicap parking right out in the lot adjacent to that community entrance into the mall. That's a full corridor into the interior of the mall. So I just feel like they haven't tried hard enough, and that, I'm not comfortable with them proposing to flip this around and I guess I'm not averse to the mall overall coming in with a broader plan that either incorporates this specific or perhaps multiple shifts from interior to exterior only entrances. But I want to see how this impacts the whole mall, and I don't want to set this planning commission up to have every single other applicant with a, say, I want to have an exterior door too, for whatever reason, and we're in a position of having set a precedent where we have to approve them. So I know that John said he was concerned about the clear language in the ordinance that would allow us to do this, but, frankly, I'd at least like to have the applicant show us the courtesy of showing up and supporting these, in my opinion, weak excuses. So I wouldn't mind tabling it and giving him another shot, but that's my 2 cents. Molly?
A question. Sorry, I missed part of your, John and Steve, what jurisdiction do we have here?
In terms of,
In terms of telling them where or where not they can put a door into the mall, out of the mall. My understanding is we got nothing to do, the mall has to do with what's in the mall.
So the planned shopping center district is what really kind of governs, obviously, this location. And we don't have too many of them. We get basically 3 of them in the township. But there are specific site development requirements and site development standards for this. It does, one of the first parts when we talk about that comprehensive development plan, and it references the different site plan and development standards in the site plan standards in Article 4 and then the development standards in Article 5 of the ordinance. And those are pretty broad standards. There's some requirements in there, particularly when it comes to pedestrian circulation. There is specifically in this part of the ordinance a section that talks about internal pedestrian circulation and linking different areas, ensuring that there's sidewalks, that there's safe marked pedestrian areas. So it's while it doesn't speak to the interior of the building, it does talk about the exterior of the building and ensuring that there's safe places for people to walk and how they interact between, driving to this location and walking into the building and so forth. Or, for instance, if they're out on the mall trail there along 31 getting into the interior of the site. There's also talk about building placement. While the building's already here, it does talk about ensuring that there's, connectivity through this area. So there is the ability to at least maybe see how this entrance is on the exterior and how it relates to the parking lot and how the site circulation generally operates. In terms of the interior, I would say there's nothing in here that really speaks to it, but certainly the overall flow and the operations of it, of the site. I do think it makes sense that if you were to locate the entrance near an existing entrance to the rest of the mall, makes a lot of sense. It's something that, that area, they intend to keep the service door that's there. So would you do a Google Street View just so people can see what that looks currently on that one corner?
On this corner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go around the corner and there. You'll see that door.
So there's the.
That would remain in place, and the entrance would be right there.
Right about here?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily designed to be an area where people can come in and out easily. It's designed to be a loading dock. It's a small loading dock, but nonetheless, that's kind of what it is. So the other location has the potential where we saw where the carts were at, that's an area that's more kind of. Don't bring up the carts.
You're gonna have more of them.
But yeah, it's more, has the potential to be a drop-off area for people, to let people go into right to the left. Okay, we got
An older image had fewer carts.
I like it.
There you go.
Yeah.
But no, that certainly is a better staging area for people coming in and out of the mall.
That's
So,
a nice little plaza there.
Yes, so it has the potential to be a little bit safer, as well as more convenient for people, and does potentially address the issue that Chris was mentioning of the rationale of reducing that connection into the mall.
So if they wanted to do it, they could go have their main entrance be behind those pine trees or somewhere on that wall, so that we would have that staging area for them. That's a good reason, as far as I'm concerned, to suggest a change. Are they looking for windows or anything like that they, it doesn't look like they're really.
No, they're not. The only windows would be on the doors themselves at where that entrance is shown. There's other than that, I think there's an additional door around the corner. It's probably just going to be a smaller access door, but other than that, there's no plans for any windows or anything of that nature.
So can we say, for safety's sake, okay, I'm envisioning 10 cars pulling up there and trying to go in right there on that narrow sidewalk and going up the ramps and going in those doors, as opposed to going to where we have this plaza area.
Yeah, one thing as I was looking at this, if you go back to that one location where that loading dock door is, you can see there's really not a curb there. It's just kind of striped. And actually, so it's not necessarily, even for that, which there's nothing wrong with that per se, but it's not really typically we like to have some protected areas like a curb to allow for people to get out of the roadway and into the store entrance.
So how would we go about that? Is that a suggestion to them, or you guys visit with them about it, or?
Probably the best thing would be, my thought is to probably table it at this point and allow us to convey your concerns and ideas for an alternate location.
They're not new concerns. They're pre-application discussion. These issues were brought to light at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Any further thoughts? I guess we,
Stress the fact that they keep that inside entrance, or, the inside door connection too, or you think that we ought to let them just put that outside door where we want it?
I feel strongly that they should make an attempt to maintain that connectivity to the interior of the mall. And I'd at least like to see them come back and because I just feel like if they eliminate that entrance, it's just, the first in a domino of changes that we won't have any influence over. And I'm concerned about that.
I agree with you. They need a little better reasoning why they would want to close it.
I agreed. I mentioned this 2 meetings ago when this first came up. They are located in Muskegon on a strip mall across from Sam's Club and Home Depot in that area. They are in a strip mall, and they have just the one entrance that faces outward.
Mm-hmm.
It may be that their business model isn't suitable for this type of mall, and there are other locations around town that do have a single front entrance that might be workable for them as well, so.
Well, we can make a motion to table, or we can make a motion to, the recommended motion. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we table this application until staff's had more discussion with the applicant.
Support.
We have a motion by Gustinelli, support by Robertson. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same. Motion passes.
You guys will just bring it back to us when,
Yeah, it would be at the March 12th meeting. We'll have a report regardless. We'll have it on the agenda for the update or whatever, if they've made changes or come back with a response.
Invite them to come to our meeting and have a discussion with us about their project. It's very rare that we don't have an applicant or a representative of an applicant show up to a meeting. In my experience, right?
It's true.
All right, well, with that, we'll move on to item 8 on our calendar, public comment. Is there any public that would like to make any further comments?
Please.
Great.
My name is Gary Long, 4272 Eagle Ridge, in the Eagles View development. And I was going to talk about the PUD, but I think I'm going to change my discussion to those damn carts over there, the Target carts, because they bother me too. This is the second planning meeting that I've attended, and I was glad to see at the first one that the commissioners, maybe even staff, our heads were spinning with confusion and what's residential mean and all that sort of thing. You all gave good specific direction to John and Steve, and it was what you all presented was great. I also attended the meeting that Connie and the Copper Ridge put together. I think I attended the same meeting because a lot of the things that we discussed, they didn't discuss tonight. I don't know if that's just happenstance or what, but the biggest issue that we had, there were probably 12 residents or so, 12 to 15 residents who attended. And it was a good back and forth. There's no doubt about it. Nobody got angry. A couple people got angry. But one of the things, our biggest concern was, of course, the residential and what does that mean and what can be done with it. And it got down to the point of where we were very concerned about short-term rentals, which I see now is called a short short-term stay. I think the whole world uses short-term rental, but we were very concerned about that. And specifically, I mean, we asked one of the developers, and we asked Connie, if you can't have short-term rentals in your complex, what does that do to the viability of selling it to somebody or you developing it? And they replied, oh, can't have short-term rentals in Garfield Township. It's a non-issue. But tonight we come and it says short-term rentals. I mean, they were suggesting that there be short-term rentals, as I understand it. They also talk about, they both at the first meeting and tonight, they spent a lot of time on this original PUD. I've lived in Eagles View for 10 years. I bought the lot, I built a house. I would say of the 55 residents that are up there, probably, I don't know, maybe all of them. I don't know about this original PUD. I didn't make my decision based on what the original PUD was. I based my decision to purchase and build with what the rules said they were at that time, which they were offices, there was retail, there was medical, no residential. Personally, I think I'm okay with residential. I read the paper. I understand we have an issue, but we don't need short-term rentals. I mean, I don't think anybody up there wants short-term rentals. We know what that means. And lastly, I think lastly here, I guess I'm not familiar with the process here, but I would have loved to have had the opportunity to counter the applicant when they were up here talking about a PUD that's 20 years old and nobody ever built to, and they're talking about a meeting that we attended, and they're only talking about half the things we discussed, but I didn't know what they were going to be presenting when we had public comment at the beginning of the meeting. So then I learned all this stuff. Oh, geez, I need to counter this, and I guess that's the way it is. But I guess now I'm interested as to what you all have done, and I believe that what you all are presenting to the board is that there's no short-term rentals allowed.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect.
That was the recommendation.
Yeah, perfect, okay.
Made to the board.
So, does the applicant get to come back when this gets forwarded to the board? What's the process? Is there I know there's a public hearing. Does the applicant have a chance to revise to the board, even though you all have?
I would encourage you perhaps to hang around after the meeting or otherwise contact
Staff? Okay, perfect.
and
I'll do
just
that.
ask them what that process is.
Yeah.
It'd be a
It's
better
lengthy.
opportunity for you to understand it.
Okay. Okay, great. Appreciate your work. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for your comment.
I'm Jan Freeman. I live at 4284 Eagle View, and I'm part of it. First of all, thank you for the consideration listening to me in the beginning. I'm disappointed that you didn't obviously table it and have a second public hearing. It does address in your ordinance a preliminary public hearing and then a follow-up public hearing in your ordinance, and that's what we were going for, to be frank with you. I am concerned, though, in one element. I think, actually two elements, to answer Gary's question. There is an element of short-term rental tied to, if I understand it correctly, tied to the medical short stay unit. And so my understanding is that would be under 30 days, and it would have to be a patient that you just approved this evening. So there is an element there. What I am disappointed about, ladies and gentlemen, is the added addition of, and this is, I'm speaking for myself, the added addition of indoor entertainment center. In the last several days, poor John can attest to this, a colleague of mine on the board, we went through everything from 2000 on to tonight. It's a big file. You've done a lot of work. This county has done a lot of work. Many of the things were not, as they said this afternoon, not crafted. But they all revolved around a theme. I think Connie is correct around that. It revolved around the theme of service, of medical service, of households that could interact within the community, of connectionness with recreational facilities, outdoor recreational facilities. It made me a believer of PUDs, excuse me. But one thing that came up tonight that the staff put together that nobody commented on, and we made a purposeful agreement not to comment on each individual issue, hoping to have you table it. But we'll make this comment to the Board of Trustees, is the indoor entertainment center. Part of that PUD history was there was going to be a Montessori school there. That fell apart during the 2000s, and they never built that. But they have letters going back to the school system guaranteeing that the retail would not be attractive to young people. Obviously, they didn't want the kids from the middle school to come across and get their drugs or their alcohol or their cigarettes or whatever. And now, in there, what you sent to the board for their approval is that an indoor entertainment center, a commercial public amusement facility conducted entirely within a building and including archery and firearms range, bowling alleys, billiard halls, laser tag, roller skating, golf range, and including their ancillary support services. I think spits in the school district's promise with that development. Those are middle school children that are across the street. They're exploring. They are trying to understand the world out there. It's a perfect place to come over after school and hang out at the billiard hall or the shooting range. So I urge you, that was one point. We knew you wouldn't be able to do it. You have a lot of work you do every day, and we thank you for that work, truly. But that's the type of thing that we're very concerned about in relationship to that PUD. We believe that Connie has a good mind and a good vision. Connie's not going to be there. She said that tonight. She's selling it to who knows one. Maybe Ollie's, you know. Maybe Ollie's could come and be in there. She's selling it to who knows what, and that's our concern. We're concerned about Garfield Township and the effect and the upstanding ability that that Copper Ridge PUD has had over the years. We're concerned that all kinds of people are going to come in to John and Steve and say, this is what we want to put in Building 10 or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. That's our concern. So thank you for listening to us over the months that we've been coming to you. Molly, I guess we'll see you at the board and have some conversations there again. But thank you for your work. But that's some of our concern.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, I'm Dawn Lawrenson. I live at 4158 Eagle View. I'm the first house in the house that'll see probably most of whatever you're doing on Lot 10, which was never identified for us. And all the notes that we received, we're not told where parcel 10 was or building 10 would be. I just found out. Thank you. So I'm disappointed in that. But my concern is unintended consequences, of 2 of which I've had to put up with. We are the owner of the house that got their bedroom lit up all night with the United sign. That when you put that change in there, nobody thought about the houses on the hill that were going to get all that light. The same as when Novella came in, And then every morning at about 3:30, I would have to listen to this humongous truck come in, bringing the MRI machine back and forth and back and forth. It's stationary now, but it was very noisy, and I couldn't sleep at night, a full night, because even with the window closed, that MRI machine was so massive. You hear it. There's just no way. And that's my concern going forward. You know, you put in, like she said, you put in an entertainment center. How much noise then am I going to have across the street? And some of these other things. So I hope when you do that, you know, with a medical building, they're gone. At the end of the day, it's quiet. When you start putting in 24-hour facilities, that changes our whole neighborhood. And the thing is that we were not informed when we moved in that this was a mixed development. We were told this was our neighborhood, and this was the development down there, that maybe there'd be another building down there, but not that there'd be building across the street. So my concern is, I hope going forward that you'll consider about unintended consequences of changing our lifestyle. It may not affect all of Garfield Township, but it will affect the people living there with certain of the activities that are kind of planned. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, Sue Murphy, 4276 Eagle Vale. I've been here for all the meetings, the preliminary ones, the other two, and now tonight. I really didn't come prepared to speak tonight because I thought we were going to get another month to research some more. And Jan and I have gone through 25 years. In 25 years, that development has changed. I don't care that she spent $25,000 to do a traffic study 20 years ago. I've read the traffic study. We made photocopies from the office here and read it. Things have changed. Also, I want to hit on this indoor entertainment center. You're looking at somebody who's put 35 years into education. I have been at numerous levels of education. I've been an assistant principal at a 1,500 student high school. I've been assistant principal at a 4,000 student high school. I've worked in the administrative offices of our district. I know a lot about middle school kids. And I can tell you right now, the parents are parking at Copper Ridge so their kids can walk across the street, avoid that long line of traffic, and get the kids home. The kids now in middle school, you don't think they're going to say, hey, meet me for laser tag at 3 o'clock. And then my mom can get us at 5 o'clock. There's going to be kids hanging out there, billiards, bowling alleys. Those buildings are pretty long. They could probably put a bowling alley in one of those. And those kids are going to hang out there. There's going to be trash, and who knows what they're going to deal outside the doorway. It's not a good idea, and that should not have been in that description, and Connie never mentioned it. It was up there in the list, but it was never defined thoroughly.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else with any comments?
Good evening. My name is Chuck Buxton. I live at 4244 Eagle Vale. I didn't plan to speak, but a couple of my neighbors here made me think of some things that really haven't been looked at. Livability is something that I think hasn't been talked about very much here. It is our neighborhood, and I don't want this to be an issue of neighborhoodism or a NIMBY issue or something like that, but we do live up there, and we do have to move around. One of the things that Connie mentioned tonight was, she said, well, we want everybody to be safe. I walk through that neighborhood a lot. I walk out of the neighborhood, and then I walk back into the neighborhood. Here's my typical walk. I can walk out of that neighborhood. I can walk down Copper Ridge Drive. When I get to the building, I'm sorry, I don't know the building numbers and stuff, but when I get to the building that now has the hospice facility in it and the physical therapy facility in it, the sidewalk stops there. Okay, so at that corner, now you're looking at, to get over to Silver Lake Road, to the pathway that takes you down to the barn area. It's a beautiful walk. It's really, you can't resist it. If you live in the neighborhood, you want to walk down that path. If I'm at that corner, there's no crosswalk. There's no safe way for me to get from that, where the sidewalk ends at that point, Eastern Sky Drive, I believe is what it is. Okay, from Eastern Sky Drive to Silver Lake Road, what I have to do is I have to jockey the cars that are coming out of the surgery center, cars that are coming down the hill. Yeah, there's a stop. There is a stop sign beyond the point where I'm standing there, but there's traffic backed up there. People are waiting to get out onto Copper Ridge Drive so that they can turn onto Silver Lake and stuff. I've called some people some names. I'm sure they've not appreciated my being there too. It's a dicey area to try to cross. Okay, so what's my alternative? Okay, I can, instead of going down Copper Ridge Drive, I can turn down City View. There's no sidewalks on City View. I don't know if any of these plans, if any of these buildings that they propose to put on those places somewhere down the road, I suppose somebody will challenge and say there needs to be sidewalks there. But at this point, the only place for me to walk is in the street on City View. So it's not safe. I see kids coming. Somebody brought up the fact that children from the middle school, I don't know, middle school, are they young adults at that point? Somebody from the middle school is going to be coming into the neighborhood, maybe for whatever is proposed to be there down the road. I don't know how they get in there safely off of Silver Lake or Barnes, because there's no access at this point. Somewhere along the way, that's going to have to be done too. So I understand it's mixed use. I understand that there's a need for progress, and I understand that there's a need for housing, but I don't think everything has been considered here. Not everything has been looked at carefully, and I hope that somewhere in this process, as we go forward, we'll get a chance to talk more about it, because I think there are some things that have been overlooked, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comment.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Well, thank you all for your comments tonight. With that, we'll move on to other business, and we need to elect a vice chair.
I'll nominate John Racine.
I second. I second that.
Well, he is homesick tonight. So
You can reach out to him, John, right?
I certainly think that he would be willing to serve, but I would personally feel more comfortable recognizing that I could get, or any of you could get appointed in your absence. Not you, Molly.
If you want, you can postpone this. I mean, I don't think this is real urgent. If you wanted to move it to a subsequent meeting.
I too would support that nomination, but would feel more
I
comfortable.
move nominations be closed.
Is everybody okay if we just wait till our next meeting then? We'll table that. Boy, I love to joke about it, but I don't really want to do it. All right, items for next agenda, election of vice chair.
You had one more piece of,
You might-
oh, okay.
So, yeah, one other item that I just want to add is about the distribution of our packets. So I know some of you have had delays in receiving the mail. And so what we are looking at, I just want to get your feedback on this, is a couple of things. One is to give you the option to come and pick the packet up from the office. So what we could do, the office is secured, but we could issue fobs. So staff uses a fob. Planning commissioners could have a fob and get into the building. We'd have a location near the door where you could pick up your hard copy packet. And I just know this from my previous life working on the planning commission in East Bay. We had a similar situation where we did not receive the packets in the mail. We got them hard copy, go into the township hall. You go in, anytime, pick it up. The other thing that is the thought is to also have township issued emails. So that's just an email dedicated for your position as a township planning commissioner. That way you get the email packet to you. It doesn't mix in with your other emails. That's just something else that just considering at this time. So I just wanted to kind of get your feedback and thoughts on that.
Works fine, just to leave them at the front desk.
Yeah. Obviously, with the email, John, like the one today was 120 pages.
Right.
You have to go in and print that off.
Right, so the idea of the emails, though, is just, it helps just to keep it well organized, but there, some people, and I don't think anybody here does, but some people do use tablets and so forth. You'd still get the email, the PDF version just to have. Obviously, it's always posted on the website, but this would be when it actually goes out, because the packet is typically ready at the end of the week prior to the meeting. But the packets, the hard copy packets, as something that we're just thinking as an alternative to being mailed. So just.
Yeah, I could pick it up here. I don't know what you think, Jim. That'd be fine. What do you say about a fob? We'd all have a fob, or it'd be in a specific area where we pick up our packet at?
Yeah, so it'd just be, so there's a few entrances into the building, so it'd be probably two of them that actually have a fob, and that you would go in and we'd have some type of a shelf there or something where we would have the packets available to you.
Or, of course, come during normal operating hours then, or come during that time.
Right.
Just normal hours, yeah.
But usually the packet goes out Thursday, so if you're waiting for normal business hours, you either have to pick it up that Thursday or have to, come in on Monday. This would give you the option, like, let's say Friday afternoon, if you wanted to stop by and pick it up.
I know I had one time, I thought it was weather-related. I didn't get the packet till 3 days after the meeting, but I believe it might have been weather-related. I'm on a rural route, so.
If they, because the packets probably have to go to Grand Rapids and then come back here. It hasn't always been that way, has it? I mean, our mail used to get sorted up here, didn't
I
it?
used to get my mail every Friday. Not no
Yeah.
more. It's a week late.
Yeah, my stuff's
It's
like.
not even stamped.
We have that little vestibule area down there. We could put up a table in there that, or a set of shelves that has people's names on it, or, whatever.
Yeah.
And,
It would
you
have
wouldn't
to-
have to come into the,
Well, the front door is locked differently. It's
can't use a
it's locked
fob
with a
on that.
key. The fob only works on the two side entrances, but we could do, like, the planning department would come on the right side. We come in there, we could have something on the wall there, just like a little shelf thing, stack of packets there for everybody.
either
It-
end.
it-
It's just as easy to come when you're open, John.
Yeah, it's
Go to the front
easier.
desk and pick it up.
Yeah, I'm just saying, though, you miss like 3 days. Like, I mean, that's for, because the packet gets done on Thursday. And if you don't pick it up Thursday, then you gotta wait till Monday to pick it up.
And if there's a holiday,
Have a fob.
Yeah.
I think.
So if people wanted to come in on that Friday or Saturday or whatever, they could come and pick it up.
You don't have
Sunday,
to,
yeah.
you could come to the front desk, but.
It's just, I just was trying to get some, we haven't, the manager hasn't come up with an idea yet, but we're just trying to get some feedback, what you guys thought.
Personally, I would, oh, go ahead.
I have a neighbor that happens to be a commissioner. I have a neighbor who happens to be your manager. They could just drop it on my house.
There you go.
They used to. They used to bring it to us years ago.
There you go.
They used to be delivered.
The fob idea, I just, be one more thing to lose, but I guess if everybody else wanted to do it, but it's online now, right? When we get the email saying that the packet's been put in the mail, last time, you could bring it all up. Have you just changed something there?
Usually, I think it doesn't go on till Monday.
Yeah, she puts
She
it on.
put it on early last
It
time.
goes on a
right?
website on Monday, but she emails it to us.
Well, she just started
Thursday.
doing that, like
Yeah,
the
so-
last meeting maybe.
Well, I think probably just to get it to you, make sure you got it in
Yes,
case you
'cause
didn't get it in the mail. But we typically like to have packets in the hands of the planning commissioners before it goes public, just in case, you know, maybe not so much for the planning commission, but I know for the town board, so that they get the chance to see it before somebody comes and says, hey, what's this on your agenda and
I
everything.
think our
So,
bylaws say we have to have it by Friday.
Okay,
does it say that in
For
the
the meeting.
bylaw?
okay.
Yeah, well.
I can
never
honestly
happens with
say,
me.
the trip to come here, I mean, it's probably even, I mean, I live over by the hospital, but just to drive over here, pick up a packet and drive home, 20 minutes to a half an hour. I probably won't come and pick up a packet. And I've been, I think even before the meeting, Bob, I was saying something about, you know,
How fast you get yours.
well, just that I probably will move to a tablet and then, and I would just get it online. My only request would be that either we need to have it, I mean, it is a large file, so it'd probably be difficult to attach.
I think that's why it hasn't been emailed specifically
Right.
that way, yeah.
So I mean, either it would have to go up and be available to the public, or there'd have to be a private download site where we could get it a day or two early. My thought is that the time saved not having to make all of the copies, at least not mine, could be invested in, I don't know what the process is, but I would like to see it posted by the end of business on Thursday, so that I can get it and look at it over the weekend, because waiting till Monday isn't a crunch for time.
I know when like applicants have submitted, they've sometimes used Dropbox to submit or, yeah, have things that are too large to attach over
It would be a
email.
way for you to distribute
Well,
it that way.
first of all, we could have it where maybe there could be options potentially. So like if you still want a hard copy, we could still mail it. But for those that would rather pick it up, we could have a pickup situation. We are looking at, we're going to be unveiling a new website. So there is abilities on some websites where you have a login for like employees. And so that way it's not the public side of the website, it's another side of the website where you can log in and you can access documents and that type of thing. So there might be a way to construct it that way, so if they are large files.
It's
might be
just
easier.
hard to print off, you know, if you have 25 pages of the big sheets.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't
Different
expect anybody
things.
to print this off at
No.
home. I mean, these packets are just, there's too much to them.
You know, if all you're gonna do is look at the agenda, well, that's easy, but it's too,
You know, I agree, Molly. I think that it is, there still needs to be a paper packet available to all planning commissioners who want one.
Yeah, I don't think we want to, we're not suggesting that. I was just, just giving that added option to have it, quickly in a digital format. But definitely, I agree. I mean, I'm not going to use a tablet. I'm still like the old school paper.
John,
I
what are
will
the,
probably
what
print some of the pages out.
Yeah,
what are the hours, John, Monday through
because you
Thursday?
can.
'cause I have
7:30 to
that.
6.
7:30 to 6. See, that's why it would be really hard
I
to.
drive right by here on the way to work.
Yeah, but I'm just,
Yeah.
so we can look at that maybe for those that would like to, but if, maybe look at that option. It's not hard for us to, to have that way that you can come in here off hours to pick something up. I mean,
She usually has them done by 3 on Thursday, and
Yeah.
you're open till,
Because usually taking them to the post office around 4 o'clock on Thursday. So. Well, if you had any other thoughts or ideas, give me a call, shoot us an email, whatever. We're just trying to make it more convenient so you get it in a timely manner so you can study it and prepare yourself for the meeting.
Because we've seen more of these now where the mail is not arriving, not just with this commission, it's happened elsewhere as well.
It's gonna get worse once Elon gets into the post office.
I think it'll be better.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
You finished the agenda or not?
Oh, right, items for next agenda, sorry. So, yeah, end of February, it looks like we've got our joint meeting with the Township Board and Planning Commission.
You gotta come early
tonight.
next, 6 o'clock, not 7 o'clock.
So it's 6 o'clock.
All right, I'll have to make sure I get that on my
I'm gonna have
calendar right.
nightmares that I get it wrong.
But Joe's gonna run that meeting, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
See,
I can just kick back then.
there you go.
might make you both.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, thanks, everybody, for a good meeting tonight.
All right.
It's a tough one. I gotta